Good morning. Today's video is going to be a little different because today I'm at home too with a tiny whiteboard, but we're going to give it a try. Today we're going to be talking about we're going to be doing fraction multiplication, but we're going to be multiplying a mixed number, okay, with mixed numbers. So the thing about multiplying fractions, which we kept talking about, is that both numbers need to be a fraction. So these are mixed numbers, they're not fractions, okay? So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change them into improper fractions in order to multiply. Because of the way that this works, you can't just multiply fractions and multiply mixed numbers, kind of like you do when you're adding. You have to turn the whole thing into a fraction. So we're going to go back and have to go back to one of the skills that we learned a little while ago, which was turning mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to kind of have to add a skill in today. All right? So if you remember, when you have a mixed number, right, you have 2 wholes and 3/5. So you need to figure out what the 2 wholes and the 3/5 all together, how many pieces that would be. Okay? So if your fraction is fifths, then when you have 5/5, you make 1 whole. So if you have 2 wholes, you have 5/5 and 5/5 plus 3 extra fifths. So 5 and 5 is 10 plus 3 is 12. So that would be 12/5. Okay? We could draw this as a circle with fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're very bad circles, guys. Very hard to do this without. Okay? So if I have fifths, if I have 2 wholes, right? So I have 2 whole circles, so that's 10/5, so that's 1 plus 1, and then 3/5 left over. If I were to count it up, that would be a total of 13/5. So that's where that number comes from. Now, we had learned a little while ago a much easier way of changing it to a mixed number without having to draw out pictures, and you can use what's called the fraction wheel, right? 2 and 3/5. We want to turn that into an improper fraction. We have fifths. We multiply the denominator times the whole number, so 5 times 2 is 10. And then we add the numerator, 13, and the denominator stays the same, 13/5. Okay? So that means that 2/5 is going to become 13/5. 2 and 3/5 will become 13/5. So now we've made that a fraction. It's an improper fraction, but it's okay, it's still a fraction. Okay, and then we need to turn this one into a fraction. So same thing, multiply this number times this number, so 4 times 1 is 4. Add the numerator, 4 plus 3 is 7. Denominator stays the same, 7/4. Whoops. So we're going to have 13/5 times 7/4. All right, so I'm going to erase this so I can make some more room for us to work. Okay, so 13/5 times 7/4. All right, so now that both numbers are fractions, now I can multiply. All right, so and remember, the easy part about multiplication is multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. Because these are improper fractions, our numerators are going to be bigger because our numbers are going to be more than 1. Okay, so you're going to get a bigger answer on top. And the other thing that means is your final answer is going to increase instead of decrease like it does when you multiply a regular fraction times a regular fraction. So improper fractions are more than 1, so your answers are going to go up, okay? So we're going to have to do 13 times 7. I will admit I don't know that in my head, so I'm going to come down here, I'm going to do 13 times 7. 7 times 3 is 21. 7, 8, 9, 91. Okay, so that means I have 91 for my numerator. It's a big numerator, okay? And then 5 times 4 is 20. So I have 91/20, okay? So if you remember back to when we were multiplying fractions by whole numbers, if you have an improper fraction as an answer, you're going to need to turn that back into a mixed number, okay? So you have 20ths, you have 91/20. So the denominator tells you that every group of 20 is going to make 1 whole. So if you have 91, how many groups of 20 can you make? So to turn it into back into a mixed number, you do numerator divided by denominator. Will tell you how many groups of 20 you can make. So 20 will go, doesn't go into 9, go into 91, 2, 4, 6, 8, 4. So 4 times would be 80. So you subtract and you get 11. So what you can do is you can make 4 holes, okay? And then you have 11 pieces left over. And how big are your pieces? They're 20ths. Denominator stays the same. So your final answer is 4 and 11/20. And then what you would have to do is you would just have to check and make sure that 11/20 is in simplest form. And we're getting really good at doing simplest form. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you that it's already in simplest form because there's no number that I can divide both 11 and 20 by, because the only way to make 11 is 1 times 11. And I can't divide 20 by 11, so that's it. All right, one more quick one maybe. Let's do something with slightly smaller numbers. Maybe 3 1/2 times 2 2/4. Okay, so again, we're going to turn them into fractions before we can multiply. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so that's going to be 7/2, times 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2, 9, 10 is 10, so it's going to be 10/4. We multiply across, that's going to be 70 on the top, 8 on the bottom. That's an improper fraction, so we're going to need to turn it into a mixed number by doing numerator divided by denominator. 8 does not go into 7, but 8 goes into 78. 8 times 9 is 72, so we're going to do 9 times, which is 72. I have 6 left over, so I can make 9 holes. And I have 6 leftover 8s because that's the size of my pieces, okay? I do need to make sure this is in simplest form, and I can tell right away it's not in simplest form because 6 and 8 are both even numbers, and all even numbers can at least be divided by 2. And so I can start out by dividing them by 2, and I just need to make sure that I go as small as I can possibly go. Or I can double check and see if there's anything they share. I mean, the only way to make 6 is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. We make 8, 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. So the only number, the biggest number they share is 2. So if I divide them both by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 8 divided by 2 is 4. My final answer is going to be 9 3/4. Whoops. That is my improper fraction in simplest form.